the first part was just engaging to see how quickly we can roll this out. The next phase really is about us engaging other community-based organizations to develop a model that works.
So you're going to engage with other community associations. Are you wondering if they're going to say, you know, hey, we want to help, how can we be involved? What do you want their input?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we hope for. We want to hear from community, other organizations that support community, to say this is also what we heard. This is what we feel would be beneficial to a program like this, and where we all can help in rolling this out in the best way possible.
Before now, what has it been like for people who survive sexual assault to be examined? Has that always been an barrier-free environment?
Well, what we know, and the reason why we talk about having community-based services, is that there are a lot of people who don't access health services the way we wish people could and would. And for a lot of people, it could be just fear of the system, fear of the hospitals, fear of how they might be treated. And so community, those survivors have asked to have supports and services and programming right in community where they already have relationships built and trust is already established.
At the end of this, what would you like to see in terms of support? How would you like this program to look?
To complement what's already existing. So giving people choices of where they want to access services, and also ensuring that it's grounded and based in culture, in healing, in wellness for people who are looking for a holistic opportunity when it comes to experiencing violence in such a way.
And when do you hope to have your services up and running?
So the goal is that we're going to have something in place in 3 months, and so we'll be moving quite quickly and engaging and in developing our next steps.
I look forward to our next conversation. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Manitoba is the only province west of Atlantic Canada without a supervised consumption site for drugs. Today, we learned a government bill to license these types of facilities will be delayed. The CBC's Ian Fraze joins us now live from the newsroom. Ian, why do critics of this bill say it will make operating these safe sites more difficult?
Well, they say the government is putting up roadblocks. This bill would establish more rules and require medical supervision at these types of sites. Sunshine House, which runs a mobile overdose prevention RV, says that's not what the community wants. So given that, the Sunshine House was more than happy today to play host to the NDP's announcements that the party would delay this bill. As the official opposition, the NDP has the right every spring to prevent 5 government bills from passing until the fall at least. And the NDP chose Bill 33 as one of those bills to block.
I think the fundamental flaw of Bill 33 is that it fails to recognize the obvious situation that we have here in Manitoba, which is that we have more than 1 Manitoban dying per day from the addictions crisis. And what these organizations who are heroically there, holding people's hands in some of these difficult moments on the front lines, what they need is a government that's going to help them, not a government that's going to bury them in red tape.
We're dealing with Manitoba's most vulnerable, and we want to ensure that these individuals, their families, community members, everybody is safe. I mean, if I go to my hairdresser, she's licensed. I don't think it's too much to ask to have a safe place for individuals who are seeking addiction services to be licensed.
The NDP says it won't reintroduce the bill if they are elected in the fall.
Now, Ian, we also learned today the government is putting Manitoba Public Insurance under the microscope. Why is the Justice Minister ordering an external review?
Kelvin Gerson says normally he doesn't want to interfere in the operations of a Crown corporation, but he feels in this case he has no choice. He has a host of worries, from the IT renewal project going $200 million over its original budget to a hiring plan it's been recently forced to abandon. There's also concerns around untendered contracts and financial projections. Here's Gerson explaining why he feels this step is necessary.
It wasn't one thing, it was all of these things that caused me to believe that as the minister who's accountable for the Manitoba Public Insurance Corporation, this organizational review would be important and it would give us an opportunity to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for Manitobans when it comes to both their value for money, but also the quality of services they get from MPI.
The review will need to be completed by the end of the year. During that time, MPI will be prevented from making any major changes to its operations, and that includes changing rates, whether that's an increase or a decrease. Janet.
Thanks so much for this, Ian. It's the CBC's Ian Fraser reporting live tonight from the newsroom. The federal New Democratic Party is taking fresh aim at changes Ottawa and the United States recently made to their Safe Third Country Agreement. Today, the party repeated a call for that agreement's suspension.
People would be pushed further underground to try to get to safety. People who are being persecuted, who are trying to escape discrimination, who are trying to escape violence, who's trying to escape rejection for being who they are, trying to get to safety, will be pushed further underground, putting their lives further into danger. It would also mean that those who are faced with trafficking, human trafficking, I believe, would also increase as a result of this rule. Canada cannot be that country that puts people who need to get to safety, who need protection, further into danger.
That's NDP Immigration and Refugees critic Jenny Kwan. She made those remarks here in Manitoba, near Emerson, at a spot close to where 4 people from India froze to death in a field 15 months ago. They were trying to enter the United States from Canada during a blizzard. City Council here in Winnipeg is taking another look at repurposing some of the city's golf courses. A study suggests the city could carve out space in some of its golf courses for new parks or community gardens. The study also suggests converting some city-owned courses into mountain bike trails or maybe even frisbee golf courses. Jared Ladabrook of Golf Manitoba says he's not too concerned about this study for now.
I would love to make sure that those municipal golf courses stay open and aren't taken out of play, but again, it's just a recommendation at this point, and I'm sure if anything's going to move further along, we'll hear more about it.
City Council's Property Committee will consider this study on Thursday. If Council wants to make any changes, city staff will be asked to determine how much those changes would cost. Marjorie Dowhos joins us now. She has the joy of covering the weather desk for us this week when it doesn't look like we're going to have any golfing weather.
No, we can't really think about golf. Maybe if you did like virtual golf.
That's a good idea. Very
or
good idea.
Maybe you played golf on a video game.
Or in the dome or something, but
Yeah.
outdoors, not this week.
No, we are looking at a spring snowstorm. Let's take a look now at this winter storm warning. Was actually issued late this afternoon for northwestern Ontario and also parts of southern Manitoba. You can see there, Winnipeg is under this winter storm warning. Why? Well, because we are looking at a Colorado low that will start to roll in late tomorrow, continuing Wednesday, starting to push out on Thursday, anywhere between 15 to 25 centimeters of snow. Even 30 centimeters of snow for parts of northwestern Ontario. There's also some strong wind associated with it. So here's this low pressure center. Here's this Colorado low. It's going to be in North Dakota early tomorrow and then start to actually push in by late tomorrow. We're going to see it in the form of flurries here late in the afternoon, and then it starts to really intensify here Tuesday evening as it pushes into Winnipeg and parts of the Red River Valley. It's also going to be pretty strong in southeastern Manitoba, northwestern Ontario. You can see there we're going to continue to see snow all throughout the day on Wednesday. Heavy snow. We're looking at about 15 centimeters here in Winnipeg before it really starts to move out to the east on Thursday. Right now in Winnipeg, mostly cloudy, -4. That is our daytime high. We have a wind out of the north at about 22 kilometers per hour. We did see a few sunny breaks today, but it was cloud cover for the most part. And you can see that here in the satellite radar, 2 different stories. Cloud cover here in the south, clear up north, seeing some sunshine. That sunshine will continue for you tomorrow up in the north. Here is the snowfall potential due to that Colorado low. So this is starting on Tuesday night, continuing in through Wednesday. This number here actually shows you the snowfall between Tuesday and Wednesday. So 19 centimeters here projected in Winnipeg, about 4 centimeters out in the southwest, where you can see that storm really leaving an impact parts of southeastern Manitoba. Piney looking at about 23 centimeters there, and look at northwestern Ontario, 30 centimeters. It's projecting as much as 50 centimeters in Dryden, stretching all the way into Sioux Lookout. So associated with this Colorado low, some strong wind. We can see it gusting out of the north, at times gusting 40, even 70. So of course that's going to cause some issues with visibility. Also, we're going to be affecting the highways out there. Travel not recommended. Tonight here in Winnipeg, 30% chance of flurries, the low of -14. That wind will kind of die down a little bit overnight. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, -10 by 8 o'clock tomorrow. Our daytime high, -3, mainly cloudy. That's still well below seasonal for this time of year. We should be around 6 degrees right now in April. Here's the long range forecast. So here's your snow on Wednesday here in Winnipeg, anywhere between 10 to 15 centimeters of snow. Start to taper off on Thursday, high of -1 on Good Friday, and sunshine. And temperatures will actually start to warm up a little bit more. I'll have more of that coming up, and I'll be back to Janet with your regional forecast.
Looking forward to that. Thank you, Marjorie. NASA and the Canadian Space Agency have announced which 4 astronauts will head to the moon. The Artemis 2 crew includes a Canadian, someone we've met. This will be the first time someone from Canada goes beyond Earth's orbit. We've got the story after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Canada will have a sizable role to play in NASA's future missions to the moon. It starts with the American Space Agency's first lunar crew in 50 years. Canada's Jeremy Hansen will join 3 American astronauts for a lunar flyby next year. Nicole Mortellero has more of Canada's big hand in returning humans to the moon.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Artemis 2 crew.
What an exciting day here in Houston. The feeling was electric at Ellington Field. You know, even before the official announcement of the astronauts, you could see Jeremy Hansen smiling among all those astronauts ear to ear. So it was a little bit of a giveaway, but also, you know, it doesn't come as much of a surprise because Jeremy was recruited at the same time as David Saint-Jacques in 2009, and he's been training extensively ever since then. It kind of felt like it was his time. So here's actually what he had to say about the announcement and what it means for Canada.
For decades now, literally thousands upon thousands of Canadians have risen to that challenge, working together under a vision to take step by step, and all of those have added up to this moment where a Canadian is going to the moon with our international partnership, and it is glorious.
As he said, we have been leaders in the industry, in science and space. It's funny because not a lot of Canadians know that. We've had instruments on Martian rovers. We've had an instrument that's gone into the asteroid belt. And of course, the Canadarm, the iconic Canadarm. And Canadarm3 will be part of the Lunar Gateway, which is the first space station that will orbit the moon. And it will serve as a jumping off point for them going to the moon and to Mars. It's basically showing that NASA trusts Canada and our achievements. And I also want to say that it was really nice to see the support from all the astronauts for Jeremy, and especially his Canadian colleagues. I mean, clearly really thrilled about this historic announcement for Canada. Nicole Mortellero, CBC News, Houston.
And actually, Jeremy Hansen spent some time with students here in Manitoba last fall. His inspiring message for them is coming up a little later in the newscast tonight. First, though, Russian authorities say they've arrested a suspect after the bombing that killed a well-known pro-Kremlin military blogger yesterday. The incident appears to be triggering a new wave of crackdown against those critical of Russia's war in Ukraine. Stewart reports.
Just a few meters from the site of Sunday's blast, a small memorial for a military blogger. Vladlen Tatarsky was killed during this explosion. This is him moments earlier as he hosted a patriotic pro-war meeting at this cafe. I'm not surprised it happened in St. Petersburg, said one of his supporters. There's a lot of liberal scum. The authorities arrested 26-year-old Daria Trepova, an anti-war activist. They released video which appears to show her walking into the cafe carrying a box. They say she gave Tatarsky a small statue allegedly filled with explosives, and then confessed to it in this heavily edited video, likely made under duress. When Trepova is questioned where she got the statue, she asks investigators if she can tell them later. Russia blames Ukraine's Secret Service and say they were working with supporters of Russia's imprisoned opposition leader Alexei Navalny. This cafe is linked to Yevgeny Prigozhin, the founder of Wagner, a mercenary army with close ties to the Kremlin. Prigozhin, however, doubts Kyiv was behind the blast and blames radicals. As for the blogger killed, Tatarsky, whose real name is Maxim Fomin, has fought for pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. Last fall, he boasted that Russia will kill everyone and rob everyone as necessary.
How well known was Tatarsky?
He has over 500,000 over 500,000 followers. He was one of the pro-war correspondents, sometimes critical of Russian Ministry of Defense.
This analyst thinks the government will use the attack as an excuse for an even harsher crackdown on Russian society.
Now we're probably going to see even more restrictions, new measures being introduced, and it'll be even harder for people who are trying to oppose the war.
Even though there are still many questions about who is really behind this explosion and why. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump arrived in New York today to face criminal charges tied to a payment made to an adult film star during his 2016 campaign. The 76-year-old is the first former or sitting U.S. president to be charged with a crime. Thomas Daigle has the latest on this story.
No previous U.S. president has taken this road before. That's Donald Trump's motorcade, leaving his Florida home to turn himself in to authorities and face criminal charges in New York. Trump acknowledging supporters cheering from the roadside, then never one to embrace subtlety, taking off in the personal jet bearing his name.
What am I expecting? Chaos.
Outside Trump Tower in Manhattan, the spectacle awaited. The world's media penned in amid tight security, a few supporters, and fed-up New Yorkers.
I hope the country comes to its senses and realizes that this guy is bad.
Tomorrow at this courthouse, Trump is set to appear before a judge to be arraigned. Defendants are often photographed and fingerprinted. Rarely does a case require this pointed reassurance from the mayor.
There has been no specific credible threats to our city at this time.
Trump is thought to be facing charges of falsifying business records. The indictment remains sealed, but his legal team is already rejecting the case.
This was dismissed by federal prosecutors 7 years ago. We know what's in it. It's a bunch of garbage.
What is known, the indictment is tied to hush money paid to porn star Stormy Daniels over an affair that Trump says never happened. At issue is whether the payment should have been declared as a 2016 campaign expense. Late in the afternoon, Trump arrived back in the city where he grew up and where he's fought legal threats in the past. Never before facing a criminal indictment as former president and as he mounts a campaign to return to the top job again. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
CBC News is investigating a major data exposure at Manulife's Canadian banking division. An insider says for years, a massive internal database containing highly private information of customers had few privacy protections in place. He also says executives downplayed the urgency to fix the problem. Erica Johnson has this Go Public investigation.
He's speaking out, he says, because Manulife Bank customers need to know.
It's honestly terrifying.
For almost a decade, he says, Manulife Bank of Canada didn't properly protect millions of pieces of customer information stored in a database employees nicknamed Data Barn. Things like customer names, addresses, credit card numbers, and social insurance numbers. Personal data, the insider says, could have ended up in the wrong hands. Someone else is reading his words.
They could use it to steal your identity. They could open up a line of credit in your name, get credit cards in your name, sell the information to someone else, and there's no way to ever know if it happened.
As concern over Data Barn started to bubble up in 2020, almost a decade after the database was created, the company began an internal review. It led to this report. Some key findings. Credit card numbers were discovered unmasked, so employees who shouldn't see all 16 numbers could. Employees were sending unencrypted emails containing customers' private information. There was no way to track how data was being handled. Customer info was being stored on laptops.
A company that has been entrusted with caring for that information on behalf of Canadians really should be taking these matters very, very seriously.
The insider was part of a group that sought solutions, but he says upper management didn't think fixing Data Barn was urgent.
We should not be waiting for there to be a data breach before there's action.
A spokesperson for Manulife declined our interview request. In a written statement, Manulife said action was taken immediately after concerns were first raised to confirm the safety of customer information and restrict internal access. The company says the database meets or exceeds regulatory requirements for privacy. Manulife also said there was never any evidence customer data was misused. The company did not provide a clear answer when asked how a lack of evidence meant it could be sure no harm occurred.
Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now, I just have to take a moment and tell you I have not seen this next piece of video, but I am frightened. It's making me cringe, just the thought of it. Ugh, do that. So I'll warn you. You've heard of rats jumping from a sinking ship? How about leaping off a truck?
There's another, there's two more! There's another! Oh, there's another one. And they're all running back home.
Yep, a little bit cringeworthy. It was raining rats in Ottawa last week. More than a dozen hopped out of that garbage truck in less than a minute. The passenger in the car behind was pretty shocked and shot this video. It's getting lots of reaction on Facebook. Yes, the city is aware of it, and yes, it's another good reason to keep your eyes on the road. If you or someone you know is looking for a stable career, you may want to look at the trades. That sector of the job market is experiencing massive shortages. The story is coming up. According to Statistics Canada, in the last 3 years, job vacancies in the trades have reached record highs. The problem is a critical shortage of skilled workers. Some provinces are now scrambling to recruit women and young workers into apprenticeship programs. But as Deanna Sumanak-Johnson discovers, there are still kinks in the pipeline.
University graduate Megan Donnelly left her career in insurance to pursue a job that would engage her mind and her hands. She's now a third-year steam pipe and welding apprentice, and things are going even better than she imagined.
I'm not even at my full pay rate, and I'm already making the same as what I was making after 10 years at the insurance company.
When it comes to the trades, politicians are promising a lucrative career you can get into straight out of high school. But many young people hoping for that career are encountering barriers trying to land that formal apprenticeship.
Not all apprenticeships are alike.
This head of training of a major trades union says aspiring tradespeople have to be aware of the mixed messaging put out by training programs and organizations.
I strongly suggest do the research, find out the outcomes.
Sure, they can get you some work experience, but what you need is an apprenticeship contract. Under this centuries-old model of trades education, companies take on newbies to train with an accredited tradesperson. Their hours are logged and their progress monitored. At the end, they receive their license to practice as an independent journey person.
You spend this large amount of money, there's an expectation that you're going to begin a career, but oftentimes there's temporary placements for employment, and there is no contract of apprenticeship signed.
So can you show me what you're working on?
Rebecca Cragnes was once one of a few women, let alone Indigenous women, on a construction site. Now she's a leader trying to make the industry more welcoming to everyone who wants to work in the trades.
The traditional hours of work of an apprenticeship are usually early mornings, sometimes late evenings, and that can be tricky to navigate if you have a young child to take to childcare. So I feel like there are some opportunities for industry to maybe be more accommodating.
We're going to make sure that they're all the same.
The experts we talked to also agree, despite recent promises in Ontario that you can go into trades training straight out of grade 11, they suggest students still get that high school diploma, especially focusing on math and science, as measuring calculations and programming machines will be key to working in the trades now and in the future. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Weather specialist Marjorie Dowhos joins us once again. What's that thing about April and rain?
April showers bring May flowers. I mean, we do have showers on the way, Janet, maybe just not quite in the form that we want to see in April.
It's not rain, but it's precipitation.
It is precipitation, that's right. We've been talking about this Colorado low, so I'm going to show you now some of the key points about this Colorado low that is headed our way. Well, it is actually going to span over what could be 36 hours here. So we're looking at this low starting on Tuesday evening, continuing Wednesday, starting to taper off on Thursday, anywhere between 15 to 25 centimeters of snow expected here in southern Manitoba, but northwestern Ontario, as we saw in the snow projections earlier in the cast, could bring as much as 30 to 50 centimeters of snow. There is already some blizzard warnings that have been issued for parts of North Dakota because North Dakota really going to take the brunt of this Colorado low, anywhere between 20 to 50 centimeters of snow before it moves here into our neck of the woods. Current temperatures right now and conditions, it is mostly cloudy in Winnipeg, -4 right now, -4 and at the Forks. Mostly cloudy in Brandon right now. You are currently at -10, -9 right now in Swan River. Sunshine today in the north, and you're continuing to see a mainly clear sky right now. -8 this hour in Thompson, -17 in Churchill. Right now, -9 in the Pas, -7 in Flin Flon. Forecast for this evening, northwestern Ontario. Well, you are looking at some cloud cover tonight. Also, the chance of flurries, about a 30% chance of flurries. Overnight low of -11 in Kenora, a little bit colder up in Red Lake, -17 under just a few clouds. Chance of flurries in Fort Francis and -8. In southeastern Manitoba, 30% chance of flurries here in Winnipeg. Chance of flurries as well in Emerson, low of -9. -9 for you in Steinbach overnight, again with a chance of flurries. Partly cloudy overnight in Barons River, -18. Mainly cloudy tonight out to southwestern Manitoba. Partly cloudy for you in Brandon, a low of -14. Chance of flurries in Morden. -21 overnight, just a few clouds in Swan River. Up in the north, mainly clear. There's also the risk of frostbite. -25 overnight in Thompson. -22 in Churchill under increasing cloud. Tomorrow, again, we are looking at the risk of frostbite because wind chill values will feel more like they're in the mid-teens. A few clouds in Thompson, -3, -8 in Churchill. Southwestern Manitoba, increasing cloud throughout the day. Of course, that snow is going to start to move in later in the day, late afternoon into the evening. High of -4 in Brandon. Here in Winnipeg, well, we're looking at a mainly cloudy sky. And you can see that afternoon snow, that Colorado low starts to push in there along the U.S.-Canada border. Emerson, high of -1. Steinbach, 0 in afternoon snow. Northwestern Ontario, you're also looking at a mainly cloudy sky. Those flurries starting in the afternoon. High of -1 in Kenora. -2 tomorrow in Fort Frances. Janet, I'll be back with your long-range forecast in just a little bit.
Thanks, Marjorie. He's going to be the first Canadian astronaut to travel to the moon. We revisit his inspiring message to Manitobans after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Well, as you saw earlier in the newscast, Jeremy Hansen has been chosen as the one Canadian Space Agency astronaut to join NASA's manned mission to the moon. Hansen was in Manitoba back in November speaking with students. He wanted to inspire them to think of ways space and science might be part of their own futures. Here is Hansen speaking with CBC during that visit.
You just have to step back for like a second and be like, wow, how fortunate am I as a Canadian to be in a really short line to fly in space? Obviously, it'd be an absolute honor and like a life thrill, something I've been dreaming about since I was a kid. I saw images of humans walking on the moon when I was young, happened even before I was born, but I saw those images and it inspired me. It changed my treehouse into a rocket ship, and I've been going on space missions for years, but I'd be really excited to go on, well, I will be flying on missions some point in the future, maybe to the moon, maybe the International Space Station. A little behind the scenes look here at the Canadian Space Agency. I've been in the Astronaut Corps for 13 years now. I live and work in Houston, Texas at the Johnson Space Center. Been spending time in mission control on this mission, watching them control the capsule, learning about it. But this is what we do in the Corps. We just support the ongoing missions. As you and I are chatting right now, there are 7 people in space. I just work in that program. We have a huge team of people that makes human space exploration possible, and I'm part of that team. Space is changing right before our eyes, and the line between exploration and helping humanity on Earth, that's pretty blurry these days. Like, they're very closely connected. What we do in space is bringing benefits to humans on Earth, and we have huge ambitions to do more in areas like healthcare, remote healthcare, for example. If we're going to send humans to Mars eventually, we have to change how we deliver healthcare. But you know where else we have to change it? We have to change it right here on Earth. Right now, we send really healthy humans to the International Space Station. We screen them, we make sure we don't send any problems, but if we ever do get caught off guard and we have a big problem, our plan is to bring them home. When you go to Mars, you're not coming home. Once you decide to leave Earth's orbit, you're not coming home for 2.5 years minimum. And so you're taking all your problems with you, and you have to take the solutions. And this is akin to our communities that live in remote parts of Canada. Yeah, the plan is to fly them to a hospital when things go really wrong, but sometimes you can't. The weather doesn't permit, or there's a delay. And so their technology is allowing us to change how we deliver healthcare, and we're setting some big goals in that area. We use space more and more every day to deliver services on the planet, not because it's novel, but because it's more efficient. And we have huge challenges ahead. And so space it's not the solution, but it is definitely a part of many future solutions to tackle climate change, climate adaptation. We intentionally want commercialization of space because it buys down the costs of doing the other things, and it just helps us. And so I see it as hugely positive. And I just want Canadians to know that they could make a huge difference. The opportunities are immense, and we're looking for bright minds to leverage the opportunities of space to solve problems on the planet. That's the way they need to look at it. So what are they passionate about? What are they worried about? And can they use space? Not necessarily like build a new satellite, but leverage existing data to solve current and present day problems.
Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen. Well, from rocket ships to electric scooters, Paris has become the first European city to ban them. Many residents of Paris say they're fed up with speeding teens and drunk tourists causing chaos on scooters. 3 deaths and 450 injuries were blamed on them last year. In the last 5 years, e-scooters have become increasingly popular. There are about 15,000 of them flying around Paris on any given day. The city says the gadgets are often abandoned or even thrown in the river, turning them into an environmental nuisance. We've got your 7-day forecast and daily lift still to come. Stay with us.
So Winnipeg under a winter storm warning, and much of southern Manitoba as well as southeastern Manitoba stretching all the way into northwestern Ontario under that warning. That's because we are looking at snow. So it's actually going to start off as a dry day tomorrow, high of -3. That Colorado low moves in on Tuesday evening, continuing Wednesday, 10 to 15 centimeters expected. Start to taper off on Thursday, and you can see there just in time for the long weekend, Janet. We're looking at a warm up, high of 8 on Saturday, high of 10 on Easter Sunday.
So keep that in mind if you're depressed about the snow. It won't last long.
No, it won't. It won't stick around, but let's turn our attention now to our furry friends. You know, Janet, we both love this story. A museum in Athens has gone to the dogs.
Not the rats, the dogs.
The dogs.
Visitors are being encouraged to bring along four-legged friends to take in the latest exhibits. Here is your Daily Lift. The idea started as a way to promote adoptions from local shelters. Pooches and their humans were free to wander about and view their favorite works of art. It's been such a success, the museum has adopted a pet-friendly policy permanently. Marjorie, did you know that tomorrow is World Stray Animal Day?
Yay!
Yay! See? Much happier than rats. World Stray Rats. Save the rats! Save the rats!